Hi there, welcome back to Going to Ground. I mentioned in my previous post that I might pop in to show you St Matthew's Rushall, where I've recently been recording. And so I have. Here we are on a glorious sunny day. Rushall's a village near Pewsey, in the Pewsey Vale in Wiltshire, and it's you can perhaps already hear something of the gorgeous natural reverb in this church. I was taking a service here, I guess a couple of years ago, and two things about it struck me, apart from the friendly welcome and the super community here, was as soon as I began to speak or sing, la, demonstrates to you, there was a wonderful echo, a lovely kind of tone to the building. And churches sound different, as all rooms sound different. And that was the first thing that struck me. It was a lovely church to sing in. And the second thing that struck me was that it had a lovely little organ with a very sweet tone, likewise. And here it is. It's not original to the building, but I discovered recently, actually, that it was installed relatively recently, I think in the last 40 years or so. There it is, it's a Hill and Son, who are a reputable organ manufacturer. One manual, which means it's got one level of keys on it, and some lovely little stops. Love the names of stops. Dulciana is one of these, and stopped diapason treble. But when I heard the organ when I was taking a service here, as I say, it had a lovely sweet tone, and I thought, this is a great recording church, a church to sing and play, and so it was. I found out that a member of the King's Singers, do you remember them, had lived in the village, and there was a singing group I've discovered that used to sing from this church regularly. And that member, who was from the King's Singers, sourced this lovely little organ for the church, and so it's got music in the stones, and so it was that we convened here a couple of weeks ago and recorded 10 or 11 songs, some of which I think will end up being released in some way. So it's really lovely to pop back in and to revisit the place. We had such a warm welcome to using it in this way, and Colin, the church warden, and the team here have been very welcoming. So one of the things I love about churches is that they are constantly, their stories continues to be told. They're constantly evolving, and both in the physical sense and the soulful sense, the whole sense in which the church is founded and can appear to be timeless and just a kind of static, permanent thing. And that's part of their appeal, of course, in a historic church. You know, this is somewhere we can go to be reminded of God's unchangeable nature, perhaps, or of a way of life that seems unchanging. But actually, of course, churches are constantly being changed. The first mention of St Matthew's is in 1086 in the Domesday Book, but the only bit of the church that remains from those days, it's not those blue chairs, but this extraordinary octagonal Norman font. Isn't that beautiful? And then the tower outside, I might try and show you, I think dates from Tudor times, and there are some really old bells dating from the 15th century. Let me show you up here. There we go, there's the tower. It's in the most beautiful situation, set in the midst of fields, slightly away from the village, and is a super sanctuary. And the church is open during the day, so if you're ever passing this way through the Pewsey Vale, do check it out, St Matthew's Rushall. So the church is physically constantly altering, and in each era new things are being done to it. But that's happening socially, of course, because villages don't remain the same either. and the people change, the culture changes, and that's part of the beauty, is that we've got both continuity and renewal happening constantly in places. And the churches express that. So in our own small way, recording some folk songs here was adding to the narrative, the story of this place. And they're particularly lovely for singing in. Churches like this are made for music, and when you sing, it's as if the stones themselves know the words of what you're singing, and you kind of join in with the chorus of those who long departed, who have sung in this place over 10 centuries. It's an extraordinary thought as you're singing, that you're joining in that heavenly choir. The Bible talks about being surrounded by a cloud of witnesses. You feel it in a place like this, and I imagine that cloud of witnesses singing along. And as I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I have this fanciful idea, that if you had a strong enough microphone, you could actually pick up the fading signal, the echo of those who have sung here in the past, but who the notes of which are soaked into the stones. When we were recording here, we had some really super old microphones that are so sensitive, and they pick up the sound for a long time. We turned off. We discovered a beautiful sound that will go on the end of the record, I think. When we just played a chord on the organ and then turned the organ off, and you hear the sort of dying exhale of the organ as it fades down. And with these microphones, it just had this beautiful long tail to the sound as it gradually faded away. And so I like to think that the sounds that have been sung, the hymns and songs that have been sung in this church, are still, if you really could listen, would be just fading away. So we join in when we sing. We join in to that music in earth and heaven. Fanciful may be, but it's deeply at the truth of what Christians believe. Which is that those who've gone before us are with us. There's an ongoing life. There's an eternal quality to life that meets us when we seek God. Anywhere actually, but it's particularly we're particularly perhaps attuned to it in places like this. So here we are, tuning in with the music of the past in St Matthew's Rushall, and adding a little bit to that music, and I'll tell you more about that record in due course. So I just wanted to show it to you, and look forward to speaking to you again. God bless you as you go to ground.